We're recording.
Hey, we're live here. Hello, everyone. This is the Park Right Here podcast with me and Mr.
Tom.
Yes, and today we have Twitchy Woman. Would you like to introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are?
I am Sharon. I am Twitchy Woman. I've been writing a blog about Parkinson's for 9 or 10 years now, and I was diagnosed 15 years ago. God, it's hard to believe. Mm-hmm. And time flies when you're having fun, you know?
So much fun.
So much fun. But the good side of this is I've got to meet people like Tom. Or do you go by Thomas? I don't remember. Tom? Thomas.
You can call me anything. I'll go with Tom.
Where did we meet? We met on Dr. Daniel's calls?
Yeah, okay. Daniel's thing.
Daniel Corcus.
I think I made you and your husband laugh.
Yeah. He's Daniel's wonderful. And
I love him.
Yeah, he's introduced me to a whole lot of people, and he's just great. He's one of the unusual professionals out there who includes patients in everything, which is great.
Well, one of the things we do too is we count the number of tangents I go off on. Here's tangent number 1. I did meet Sharon through Daniel Corcus, and I've never met somebody who does so much for the Parkinson's community and we invited him once to the Davis Finney. We did something similar. And when I introduced him, I said, no, I got to ask you all a favor in the audience. Don't ask him a lot of questions because he'll sit here until the last question's answered, and he's a busy person. So let's be respectful of his time. But I told Daniel once that we are the Alpha and Omega because my last name starts with COS. I'm the Alpha. His ends with COS. He's the Omega. And he just, like most people, just shook his head and goes, I don't know how you do this. But Daniel is one of the people I'm hoping to get on at some point. So there's my tangent number 1.
Okay, well, if he won't let you on, I will talk to him. He listens to me occasionally. Occasionally. Did you ever hear about how I got connected with him?
No.
Oh my God, this is another tangent. I have a friend in Chicago, Jim Kroger, who has a gym. Jim has Parkinson's, and he has Rocksteady Boxing at his gym. So when we would visit my daughter, I would go to his gym, and so we became friendly. And he's introduced me to a whole bunch of people. And one day he calls me and he says, "Do you know who Daniel Corcus is?" I have no clue. Well, he was talking about you on a webinar. I said, "What?" So he sends me the recording of this webinar, and he says, go to 30 minutes and 29 seconds or wherever it is. And I go to it, and he puts up this slide, and there is Twitchy Woman, and my email, my website. And I'm going, what? And he says, he was talking about resources, and he says, and there's this lady in LA who calls herself Twitchy Woman. And then he goes on and on and on. And I'm like, what? So of course I contacted his office the next day and said, who is this guy? I need to be in touch with him. And that was it.
Did you ever talk with Vic?
My group, and he was probably one of the most popular speakers I had.
Yeah. He's a great speaker. Never leave something he said without learning something new. And I met Daniel through a support group. He did a presentation, and I got his name, and I reached out to him. I sent him an email saying, this is who I am. I'd love to join your support group. He said yes. That was about 1.5 years ago. And I find of all the support groups I belong to, I really like his the best, just because of who he is.
Mm-hmm. Well, he takes it to a different level.
Yeah.
Than most
groups. And not to put down most support groups, but this is a more higher level support group, if you will, because we talk about more things than just Parkinson's. It's more about exercise in the brain. And tangent number 2, which I think you'll agree with, is what I really hate is when someone says any exercise is good exercise. To me, if you're just taking a walk around the block, you just took a walk around the block. If you want to exercise for Parkinson's, you have to exercise at a higher level.
Yeah, but you have to start somewhere. And that's what most people don't understand. And I use Jimmy Choi as an example all the time. And that Jimmy was somebody who couldn't walk around the block, and he started by walking to the mailbox and then to the corner. And, within a year, he was running half marathons or whatever it was. But you have to take baby steps and get there. Walking your dog is not exercise because you're stopping every other foot for them to smell. smell the dogs that have come before. Taking your dog for a brisk walk is better, not letting them stop and smell. But you have to start somewhere. And I think that's the important thing is, and Daniel, he stresses this. You don't start at the, an athlete level, to do your exercise. If you've never exercised, you got to start slow. You have to build up to it. And those who have been exercising at a high level for a long time have a harder time getting their heart rate up to that 85% that he wants. He talked about that. We talked about that last month. So
I know I've changed my exercise pattern because of him.
Yeah. And with Christine's book, I think a lot of people will be changing it even more. So
here, let me show you. This is my workout room. If I'm on a tour, I have my bike, my bag over there. That's something and I got a TV in the corner so I can watch and do my yoga. And I have a TRX stuck on the ceiling. So I'm in the exercise room every day.
Yeah. Well, good for you. We have an exercise room in our old garage, and I work out back there, and I go to ping pong once a week, ping pong for Parkinson's. A lot of fun. I recommend it highly.
I play ping pong on Fridays.
It's fun. It's fun, and it's exercise, and it's social, and it's a better workout than people think.
Well, here's my favorite. Do you play pickleball?
I haven't played a lot. I hope to. I'm a tennis player, but I recently stopped playing because I tripped over my own feet going backwards, and thought this is not a good idea. I'm too old for this, and with Parkinson's, it's just not smart. But pickleball, you don't have to run as much. What?
I play 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I love
that's
pickleball.
A lot. Yeah.
And I don't backtrack. One of the things that you said, tripping, I was going back for a lob, and I kind of just lost my balance, and the wall stopped me, which was good. Thank God I have a hard head. But we all, when we play, I'm 65, and I tend to be like one of the younger players at times. We'd much rather somebody lose a point than somebody chase the ball.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's got to be exercise, got to be safe.
I was talking to a physical therapist, and most of her patients who she sees that are orthopedic have been injured playing pickleball. That's the biggest group because they're not used to moving. It's usually people who say, "Oh, that looks like fun," and I don't have to run a whole lot, so I'm going to try it.
Oh, yeah.
And for the most part, they've never exercised before. So I played tennis, so I know how to move.
Right.
You move side to side.
I got to forget that I'm not playing tennis with pickleball because I guess the shots when the forehand is not as wide and back as you would do in tennis.
Yeah. I mean, the shots are different, but you're still moving side to side laterally, which most exercises don't do. You're moving back and forth. And if you're not conditioned to move in that way, you're gonna fall and hurt yourself. So if you have Parkinson's and you want to play pickleball, start slow. If you've never exercised, please.
When I was taking yoga, she used to say there's somewhere between not having any pain and too much pain is where you find yourself. Yoga
That's the other thing. There's chair yoga for those who have balance issues. And it's just as good as standing on one foot or doing an upward dog, whatever it is. I've been doing yoga for 20 years. So for me, it's natural. But for people who are new to it, it can be very, very difficult. And it's getting harder.
How's your pigeon? You do a full pigeon in yoga?
Oh, yeah, I do pigeons. Yeah.
They hurt.
They hurt. Well, that one's supposed to hurt. So
when I first started yoga after my Parkinson's diagnosis, I remember going into a class and there was only like 3 men in this huge class. And one of the women came up to me afterwards and said, I just want to say you're inspiring. I'm like, excuse me? Because, you're making headways that it's okay to be a man and play or do golf. Do yoga. And I'm like, I didn't tell her this. Said, I'm not inspiring anybody. I have Parkinson's. I'm just trying to stretch my body. I just found it very unusual that, it's nice to know that somewhere I'm out there inspiring people.
Yeah. Well, definitely. And I'm really upset because the yoga classes I was going to, the yoga studio, they closed recently. They decided they were just going to sell clothes instead. And
Wow.
The one class I went to was the yoga instructor was a man, and he was wonderful. A couple of the best yoga teachers I've had have been men, and I think they're great and good for them for sticking with it. It isn't just for women; it's for everybody.
Yeah, I was talking to Christine, who wrote the book, and one of her loves is dancing. And she likes Body Groove. I don't know if you ever heard of Body Groove, but it's very good. And it reminds me of PWR, Parkinson's Wellness Recovery exercises, because it does a lot of the power kind of moves, and it's dancing that's not choreographed. It's just move your body the way your body can move. And some people sit down in a chair. Some people will when they jump, they'll just stay on the floor and move, and it's however your body can move depending on your size or age or wherever you're at. And it's cool songs, like oldies, or another one, Bites the Dust by Queen, whatever, whatever you like, or Latin or whatever. And I love it. And me and Christine are actually going to take a class to be facilitators so we can teach.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Cool.
There was a book written about 10 years ago by Alex Curtin, who's in Israel. And I can't remember the name of the book. I can look it up for you. And he says, dance like nobody's watching you. Just turn on the music and move. And he says, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself is just get up and just start dancing. And
someone once said I was the whitest dancer they ever seen, and it was not a compliment.
I do that a lot because my daughter says it's cringe to watch me dance.
I do it when I'm alone.
Yeah, she's 17, so.
So here's my favorite thing, working balance. I had this little, I want to know what you call it. And
it's like a Bosu ball. Yeah, it's like a Bosu ball, but it's smaller.
Balance, but I work on this every day.
It's good for your core.
Yeah, it's good for
balance. I have a cushion. I don't have it here. I have a cushion at home that a chiropractor recommended that you put on your chair, and it's it makes you move, but it makes you, if you sit properly on it, you have to sit forward. You can't sit like this. It makes you sit up straight, and you're balancing, so it's working on your core at the same time. So that's another thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to force myself to sit up as well.
Yeah, that's the hard. It's real easy to just do this, right?
Yeah.
So, or lean back like Katrina is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name Twitchy Woman? I think that's a great name.
I don't know. It just came to me. We have a fight over it. Who came up with the name? I say I did. He said he did. Yeah, but it's a play on the song "Witchy Woman," obviously. And I was twitchy, so I became Twitchy Woman.
That's kind of like the park right here is my son came up with that one.
Uh-huh. So my husband is the one who comes with all the nicknames, and I said I want credit for this one.
I always wanted to start a coffee shop when I was retired. I was going to call it Shaky Grounds, like a California coffee experience, but the play on words with shaky, and see whoever can figure out what the shaky means.
Oh yeah, it's not an earthquake. Yeah.
So going back to what you said earlier, you did this right at the end of COVID. I mean, was it your intent just to have a small group sort of thing, or did you ever imagine it getting to where it is today?
No, I thought, okay, I started at the very beginning of COVID. We shut down March 17th, and I remember the date because it was the day before my birthday. And that day I said, okay, I had already had some experience on Zoom calls. So I said, let's go on Zoom and we'll do it. We had 9 people the first time, and I think 20 something the next time. And people started finding out that they would email me from New York, from wherever. Well, do I have to live in LA to be in your group? And I'm thinking, well, the intent was to take it online for a couple of months until we could get back to life as we knew it. And we all know how that turned out. And so
we're still waiting.
We're still waiting, and it's still going. We've been meeting about twice a month for 4 years this next week. And I'm actually cutting back to once a month to see how it goes because I'm tired. I've had a lot of people over the last 4 years and start to run out of ideas.
Yeah.
And
I think tiredness is something that I can say that too. I'm tired. And I'm not bouncing as many balls or juggling as many as other people, but I'm just at times I'm just tired.
Yeah. Well, it's work. I mean, it isn't just showing up on Sunday morning. There's a lot more involved in that. And, getting the speakers, making sure everything's working. We did a sound check at 9:30 on Sunday with Christine. And then when she went to show her slides, they didn't come up, so we had to wait until we could get it to work. Yeah. But it just, there's a lot of stuff involved with doing this every other week. And, we'll see. But the thing is, I get a lot of emails on the Sundays where I don't have meetings. Well, I tried to get on. Aren't we meeting today? So, I mean, people really, they want to be with us, but we aren't always there.
Is that your daughter?
No. Oh, no, it's my friend.
Oh. Yeah, but there's only so much you can, be for, you can't be everything for everybody.
No.
And I've learned that a lot over the years, especially when you're having, like Tom has been great I think that was one reason I wanted somebody. That was one of the main reasons I wanted somebody else, because it was hard to do it on my own, a podcast and be consistent because, life happens. And the past couple of weeks, my mother's been put on palliative care and she has end-stage COPD, and it's just a matter of time. And I'm on the other side of the state. I have to take care of my 2 elderly aunts, which I know helps my mom a lot. That alleviates a lot of stuff for her and my dad. And now the money stuff is being transferred and all that stuff. And they're putting together their end of life stuff and, where they want to be buried and blah, 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 the money and they make me executor. And I'm like, and all that's, we're dealing with all of that. My sister's in India till May. And so it is what it is, but everybody has to deal with that eventually.
Yeah. I have an assistant who's a graduate student at USC in physical therapy. Unfortunately, she's graduating in April, so then she's leaving me. So I have to get another graduate student. But it helps me a lot on Sundays, especially because if I get my hands I'll invariably start shaking and then I can't use the mouse and whatever, and something goes wrong, because I'm just not, it's stressful, so she does a lot. She runs the PowerPoint. She does, she handles a lot of stuff in the background for me, which is great.
Right. And that's what I think I'm looking for, is somebody to kind of help me with the social media stuff, because like yesterday, I was so stressed out. I was so dyskinesic. I was like,
You hire a 10-year-old, they know how to do it.
I would love to hire my daughter, but she won't touch Facebook with a 10-foot pole because that's for boomers.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
One of the things I've done in volunteering is a group called Project Event. And it's middle school students, and they basically interview you about your Parkinson's, and then they create something to help you with your Parkinson's. So I just had a meeting with them yesterday, and these are 12-year-old kids, and they're taking these, like, most of it is they've developed like little 4-tab sensors. They've got it embedded like in a thin glove. It's got a little circuit board and a power source. And supposedly the key to this is when you feel the tremors coming on, you put this vibrator thing, and it kind of helps to cut back. And they found 3 people with Parkinson's, and they tested on them, and it seems to be working. One kid's writing an algorithm to do this. And I'm like, guys, you're only 12 years old. Help me.
I didn't know what an algorithm. Did you know what an algorithm was at 12? No.
No, at 12 o'clock, there was something called Tandy that goes how far back we are.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't learn about algorithms until I was in high school. But
it made me feel old for the first time. I I was an econ major, and I used to do programming on Fortran and something called COBOL. And when my son started high school, my son graduated. My son is 31 now. So when he started high school, they had this course called the History of Computer Programming. And guess what was the history? Fortran and COBOL. That was the first time in my life that I felt old.
We have punch cards.
Yeah, I remember
we still
punch
have
cards
them from college. Did you ever show them to the kids? No. He did a whole punch card thing for me. We were in the computer lab one night, and it's like, you type 2 words in another card, 2 words, and I mean, with this was ancient.
You get the green bar, that prints it out. Remember, there's a long thing, green, and it had this little tabs on the side. Yeah.
It's a different world.
Yeah, I remember in 9th grade we were moving. Well, I grew up in the military, and we got orders to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I swear to goodness, I did not know there was an Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I thought Michigan was just a mitten. So, and I told my daughter when we moved to Germany that there was no cell phones, no internet, no video games, it was snail mail. There was no, you couldn't long distance call you couldn't call your friends. It was, it cost a lot of money back then to make overseas calls. And I said, we had 2 radio stations that spoke English. We lived too far from base, so we didn't get the American AFN station. She was like,
Armed Forces Network.
Yeah, we didn't get AFN. So she was like she could not believe that life was like that.
It was a different time. Yeah, things were very different.
It was like TV land for the military.
Yeah. So when I was diagnosed, there was nothing on the internet. This was in 2009. There was very little out there. I think I found one blog. There was just nothing out there. And I didn't start my blog. I waited about 5 years. I didn't do anything for 5 years. And I finally went to a Fox Foundation event, and that's when I started getting involved in things. And, but yeah, there was nothing out there. Now, there's the last count, there were over 200 Parkinson's specific blogs that I know of.
I don't know where Tom went, so
I don't know where he went either, but they just keep popping up, and some are wonderful. And those are the ones that have been around longer, actually, for the most part.
That's like Davis and
and some are dreadful. And
you get these ones that this herb has cured Parkinson's, and
those are the ones that come out of South Africa. Those are all spam. But there's these guys who tell they have the cure, and I tell the people I get questions all the time, and I said, do not listen to anyone who says they have the cure. If there is a cure out there, the Fox Foundation and the Parkinson's Foundation will be the first to broadcast it everywhere.
Oh yeah.
So 2 women that were active members of my group decided they were going to follow this guy's advice on his cure, which was, I don't know what diet he had them on. And both of them came back to me after a year and said, what a mistake we made. We should have listened to you. So you really have to be careful with the blogs out there. There are some people who write every single day something. I don't want to know everybody's day-to-day activities. I want to know what they're contributing to my knowledge of Parkinson's. They're just, it gets to be too much. Some are wonderful, some are fun, some are very scientific, and you just have to be discerning about it. You have to be critical of what you're reading. You can't just take it all at face value, because it's really hard, to know what works and what doesn't work. What works for you may not work for me.
Right. And I usually tell people too, if they're looking for like scientific literature, look for like Mayo Clinic or Cleveland Clinic. If you're not in the medical field, don't go to like, and what is that? National Medical,
NIH. Yeah, the NIH thing. Yeah, but there are a couple of patient bloggers who are very technical, but they're very good.
Yeah,
Simon Stott and
those kind of people can understand it. But even me being a nurse for 20 years, sometimes that stuff goes over my head.
Yeah, I know. I do too. Sometimes I'll take a blog and just kind of deconstruct it and get the main points out of it and write it up so it's understandable.
Especially newly diagnosed, because I'll even recommend, I said, for newly diagnosed people who are like lay people, I say get Parkinson's for Dummies. I know that sounds,
and get the Davis Finney book.
And Every Victory Counts, because that is like really, really good, because it's not written over your head, and it's got a lot of, it's from one, when now I've been diagnosed, now what do I do, to financial planning and end of life stuff, and it's everything in between.
Yeah, and it's the best book out there for that.
And people are so thankful, especially newly diagnosed, and the one for care partners is really good too. And I tell them that, but even Parkinson's for Dummies is really good. It's got a lot of basic information that people can understand, and it's not too simple, and it's definitely not deep, but it's really a good place to start.
Do they update it? Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good to know, because I don't have that one. I wrote a blog. A friend of mine from high school was going to see a neurologist because she was having symptoms, and she wanted to know what questions to ask. So I wrote a whole thing about what you need to know before you go, to the neurologist. Here's, what do you need to ask? What do you bring somebody with you? I mean, there's so many basic things that you don't think about.
Yep.
And
or that you forget about during that moment, or because you're so because there's so much information coming in, and if you have somebody who can kind of sort all that stuff out and has a brain that is not affected by lack of dopamine, that does it helps a lot. My husband's usually pretty good with that on the other side. He's the other half of my brain.
I tend to try. I Google quite a bit of things.
Yeah. I always make a list when I go. You always take a list of questions. What? I didn't hear you, Tom.
I'm having some streaming issues. Like you said with the list, I take it one step further. About a week before my appointment, I go on the portal and I send him a list of things I want to talk about. So that way, when I walk in the office, it's, hey doc, hey, and then we go right into it. And the first 5 or 10 minutes aren't really centered by him telling me what's going on since the last visit. He already has that update. Mm-hmm. I find it helps make my appointments. And I mentioned that once to a support group, and the neurologist who was running goes, "That's a good idea." I'm like, excuse. In turn, I said, "Wait a minute, you're a motion disorder specialist, and you have eczema, and you don't communicate them through the portal?" That's what I'm thinking. I said, "That's crazy. That's the best way of communication."
I did the same thing. I communicate all the time. Any kind of change of symptoms, or if I, have any problems with my meds or anything like that. I have a really good MDS who he'll get back to me within 24 hours. Because I think it's because he understands the distance.
Yeah, you're in a different situation.
Yeah, and so he's really good about. He's really good about getting back to me really quickly. I think he's like that with everybody, though. He's just one of those doctors, and he's a good teaching doctor too. Mm-hmm. And he's really good because I'm one of the oddballs. I have an Abbott system for my DBS. Everybody out here is Medtronics or Boston Scientific, but because I had my DBS in Colorado, I have the that Dr. Van Sickle did. He prefers the Abbott. So, they had to get the Abbott representative out to teach the docs at the DBS clinic how to do it. For me.
Sharon, have you had DBS by chance?
No. No.
Okay.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I was diagnosed when I was diagnosed. Well, the first doctor I went to was a neurologist, and he said I had a Parkinson's-like tremor. Okay. 6 months later, I went to a movement disorder specialist who said, yes, it is Parkinson's. And I was tremor dominant. And she said at the time, she actually believed in exercise 15 years ago, which is, she was kind of ahead of everybody else.
Wow.
And I like to say we bonded over yoga because she also has a yoga certification. And she said to me, continue to exercise, keep it up. You have a slow moving type of Parkinson's, because it's tremor dominant. I wasn't showing any other symptoms at the time. And she was right. It has progressed, but not a lot.
Are you still with this, doctor?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. So I met my neurologist. My Parkinson's story was in August of 2015. My younger brother actually like in June of 2015, he'd gone in for some back surgery. And when they did the pre-op testing, they found out he had cancer. And it just, within 3 months, he was gone. But the day I lived in Baltimore, he was in Chicago. I got a call Sunday night saying, it's time, you need to get out here. So I caught the first flight I could. I was fortunate enough to be there when he passed away. And that day, I started having tremors in my left hand. And I just thought it was stress related. And I remember going to my older brother saying, I'm going to stay on mom's side. I'm left the mom with my hand in the pocket because she just buried her son. And I'm not going to do this. But I was diagnosed as an essential tremor and a pinched nerve by a regular neurologist. I'm like, how could the two things, explain to me how I can have essential tremor and pinched nerve at the same time? And they couldn't give me an explanation. So I went back to her a couple times, and finally she made a comment that you have Parkinson's, come back in 30 days. And now in hindsight, she was saying that I have to see the progression, but my physical therapist gave me the name of a doctor, and I tell you, I've been with him ever since. And I like to tell this because he gets me. It was the first meeting we had. And he's going down the checklist. You grow up on a farm, you drink well water, drink out of a hose. And I like to say Boy Scouts honor, because to me, Boy Scouts honor is the highest thing you can give somebody. But I said, Boy Scouts honor. He said to me, have you ever fallen into a vat of acid? And I said to him, but no, but as a teenager, I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and now I got this crazy spider sense. And he looks at me, he goes, Peter Parker? I said, yeah. He goes, well, why'd you say that? I said, well, why'd you ask me if I fell into a vat of acid? And he goes, I'm just making sure you're listening. I said, well, I like you, because yes, I'm listening. And that was the beginning of what I call it. We've been married 8.5 years now. Haven't had any fights.
Yeah, well, like I said, we bonded over yoga. And, there's got to be someone. And I tell people, there's other doctors out there. If you're not happy, don't stay with them.
Nope. I have fired more than
and there's so many of them who say, you have Parkinson's, come back in 30 days or come back in 3 months. And then what do you do? So we actually started a mentoring program because during the pandemic, I was hearing from so many women. They were calling me. They had found me on their way home from the doctor. They had just been diagnosed 20 minutes before, and they were desperate. They sent me home, come back in 3 months. What do I do? So we had 10 women actually put together a mentoring program, and we match, we match people who have had Parkinson's for a while with newly diagnosed. And it's really been a wonderful program.
I remember the night after I was officially diagnosed, I was watching TV Land because I felt like crap. I watched Archie Bunker, another episode of Archie Bunker. I said, I'm going to watch one more show and I'm going to go to bed. And the show that came on was the theme song to Family Ties by Michael J. Fox. Oh. And I just looked at the ceiling and said, this ain't nothing funny. It's like the universe smacked me down that night. He just had to remind me that the universe was more powerful than I am. But he just smacked me with a hand. Mm-hmm. But that was sort of my introduction to Parkinson's, compliment Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. Wasn't it? Did you see his film? Still?
Yes.
Wasn't it wonderful?
I didn't like the ending. It was wonderful, but I didn't like the ending because it just stopped. I just wanted it to go on and on and on.
Well, yeah, I know, but the whole point was he couldn't be still.
Right.
He was
Look
trying.
at me, I'm always moving.
Yeah. I thought the film was so good and
honest.
Honest. And I mean, the first half, I was laughing so hard. The first half, when talking about his growing up, it was just so funny. And going to the drama club because there were girls there, and whatever it was. I was just rolling. Yeah, and and his first apartment, and it was just so much fun. And then he starts, they show the hand shaking, and it was like, it was just so well done.
Yeah.
It really was. We did it as
It's
we
like
got
we
right.
need more. I wish more celebrities would get out there and share their stories, because there's there's more and more. There's Neil Diamond, there's Linda Ronstadt, there's Alan Alda, there's who else?
Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy. Well, I know Ozzy does talk about it. They have a podcast. His family has a podcast, and they do talk about it. But
I was hoping Alan Alda does all this public service stuff about health, and I was hoping he would do more, and he really hasn't done much, except that he says he goes boxing. Okay, he has his boxing coach come in every day.
When Neil Diamond came out, they had Parkinson's. I did some research and I found out the name of his agent, and I got an email, and I sent them an email saying, I have Parkinson's, with this foundation. Could Neil come on and just sing us hands, trying to touch hands, trying to reach out? And I never heard back from them. Like a little spoof on his hands, but never heard back from them at all. And with next month is Parkinson's Awareness Month, I think I'm gonna start posting on Facebook just throw it out there, throw out the gauntlet. Come on, guys, come out and say something. Reply to this Facebook thing and just say something.
I did watch an interview with Linda Ronstadt, and she can't sing anymore, and that's very hard for her. And so I can she sings in her head, she sings perfect pitch in her head, but she can't, and that was a big deal for her, because she never got married. She has no family. She, music was all she had.
I loved her.
She has a son, I think.
Yeah.
I read her. We went to hear her speak, and she came out and she did not look good. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago. Whenever her book came out, it was a promo for the book, and I went up to her and talked to her for a few minutes. But it was difficult watching her, knowing who she was and how powerful her voice was.
Mm-hmm. She was one of my favorites of the 70s. Absolutely. Yeah. You're No Good is my favorite song by her. And because music has always been a big part of my life. And Neil Diamond, jazz singer, and and that was one of my favorite movies. And Alan Alda, MASH was in our house every single night. And he always reminded me, I had a crush on Alan Alda as a teenage girl. So, and it was like, I wish they would just, but I can understand. It's pride. It's, it's,
look, no one's done what Michael J. Fox has done for us.
I'm so proud. That's one man I want to hug one day.
And if you haven't seen it, he watched his acceptance speech from last year from the Oscars. He had received a special award.
Yeah.
Just watch it. It is hilarious. His hand starts shaking and he smacks it. We've all done, stop that. But he's just so good. It's worth watching. It was something from the Oscars. It was like pre-Oscars. He got a special award.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, just look at Michael J. Fox Oscars and you'll find it. It's a great speech.
I remember the episode where what's his name? The guy, the uppity major. Shoot, I forgot his name. There was Hawkeye, Trapper, and who was the other?
Major Burns.
No, God, the guy that
who was the major,
or the one that after Frank
Harvard doctor.
Oh,
well, in any event, he was away, and they had somebody sew up his pants leg a couple inches, so he thought he got taller. And my neighbor was on vacation, and I wanted to do the same thing because I had the code we took care of his house, so I had the code to the garage. I wanted to grab a couple pairs of his pants and just shorten them a little bit, like
Winchester. Winchester. Yeah, sorry.
What's his name?
So when you started this, was it?
Yeah.
Did you find that doing what you're doing gave you more of a sense of purpose as well? So it was like a win-win.
Absolutely. I couldn't sit home and feel sorry for myself if I was doing quote work, which was writing. And I was never a writer. I didn't ever consider myself a writer, but it really gave me a focus. So yeah, it really it gave me a sense of purpose. And the people I've met have been amazing, from all over the world. And I'm sure you found the same thing.
I know. When I got diagnosed, I was able to work for 4 years, and the stress of my job just took that away from me. I couldn't do it any longer. So I kind of went on medical retirement. But I remember the first year or so, I was lost. I used to say I used to be Sandy's husband, Justin's father, Anna's father, the guy at work. And now I'm still them, but I lost my identity. And it wasn't until I actually started getting involved in the Parkinson's community that I got more into it and decided I wanted to become an ambassador. The greatest thing we did, which was really simple, was if you can see that it says the 110 Club. It's a bicycle.
Yeah.
So when I was doing pedaling for Parkinson's in the room, I'll just go one more time for the viewers at home, the 110 Club. So we where we rode the bikes in the bike room, they had a decibel reader, because you're not supposed to go over so many decibels while you're doing that. Well, I noticed when we would go AE at the end, we did the big and loud AEIOU, and we really sold the U. And I saw the decibel going up a little bit. I'm like, hey guys, let's see how loud we can make it. And it went up a little bit more and a little bit more. And then someone named Paul said, Tom, why don't you sit up front? You got the biggest mouth in the room. I'm like, that was a compliment, I think. So I got up there, and the bike in front of it, we hit 110 decibels.
Wow.
And the place erupted. It's like we just won the Super Bowl. And I said to myself, if something that simple can cause that kind of response, I need to do this. Because I tell people, it came to me once. I was working with the Parkinson's Advocate through the Michael J. Fox and AbbVie program. And it was talking to her and talking to the other people. It really made me feel like I had to give something back. Like with the lady I worked with at the Parkinson's or Michael J. Fox thing, it kind of came to me one day. I said, I'm trying to climb up. You're my Sherpa. I'm trying to climb to the top of the mountain, and I've got too much weight on my shoulders, and I can't get there. So you took my weight off, and you helped me get to the top of the mountain. And now it's my turn to be someone else's Sherpa. And that's how I sort of looked at it. And I like being stupid. So it's like my superpower is hopefully making people laugh, and not always appropriate at times, but if I can get somebody, I look at it, if I can help someone laugh for 5 or 10 minutes, or even if it means poking fun at myself, I've taken Parkinson's away from that person for that brief period of time. And to me, that's unfortunately, that's my gift to the Parkinson's world.
Oh, I'm supposed to tell you, Erica said hi. She wanted me to tell you hi today.
Yeah. What happened to me was I was in hiding, I was in denial, and, but I was involved in several organizations locally, and I would have to, I'd have to speak in front of groups. And if I had a podium, I figured I was safe. I was behind the podium, even though it was shaking, like this. And but one time I had to get up and I had to speak. There was no podium, and I had to have notes in front of. And it was like, what do you do? There was the hand holding thing. You can't do it if you're holding a paper in one hand. You got to put your hand in a pocket. You got to do something. You can't. It gets harder and harder to hide it. And a friend of mine was diagnosed around the same time I was, and he and I would get together and we'd look at people and say, "Oh, she's doing the hand holding thing. He's doing the." You could always tell he was trying to fake it. But I started getting phone calls from people saying, "Can you talk to this friend or coworker or whatever, that was diagnosed?" And I'm like, I hadn't come out in public. How did you know? Well, it becomes obvious to everybody else, even though we think we're hiding it. And that's one reason I started the blog, was because I was getting phone calls. I was meeting with people over coffee, or we talk on the phone. And I thought, I'm just going to write this stuff down. It's easier than, all these meetings. And it just kept going and going. So.
Well, that's interesting how they found out, because I lived here now in my new place for 2.5 years. And about 1.5 years ago, I had hip replacement. So I wasn't really active in the community. But now as I play pickleball, I have 3 different groups I play with. And they've all become not just pickleball, they've become friends. And for the longest time, I didn't want to tell anybody I had Parkinson's, because I didn't want to be seen as the guy with Parkinson's. And after I got to know them a little bit, talking to my wife, she's like, "Well, Tom, maybe it's just time, because because pretty soon everyone's going to know in that respect.
Mhm.
So I was afraid to come out as someone with Parkinson's, and to my surprise, it didn't matter.
No,
I mean, it's not like
that happened to me.
anybody-
I had a separate Facebook group for Twitchy Women, and one day I posted something on the wrong on my personal Facebook group, and the world didn't come crashing down.
Right.
And and I was terrified. It was like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? And everybody knew. So it was like, okay, I'm all right. Then it was okay to be in public. But it took a long time to come to terms with it.
It was interesting because I hadn't told my daughter yet, but I was flying home to tell my mother and my family. And I tell them what was going on. And then because they love social media. And I looked at them and said, you need to understand something. My daughter does not know I have Parkinson's because she was in college. It was exams. I said, I'm not going to tell her over the phone. So I said, but if anyone puts this on social media, I swear to God, I will hunt you down and I will kill you. Because if she finds out before her mother and I tell her, I will kill you. And I was just afraid of the social media aspect, even though it would probably be positive. Like my older brother, he likes to make comments on things that I do. Look at my rock star brother. It's always done. But I was so afraid that they were going to say something. Just saying, kudos to my brother who's fighting Parkinson's or something. And I just didn't want that to happen until I told her.
Yeah. We need to get going here, unfortunately.
Sure thing. No, we
do you want
appreciate the time.
Words of wisdom from Mr. Twitchy, who's sitting here?
Yes, of course. I want to hear from, because I can tell what he writes down. I give it to my wife. Hey, Mr. Twitchy.
Hi.
Hello.
How you doing? Any words of wisdom? Any words of wisdom?
No, I'm just a lay guy watching sideways. This has been, her personal growth has been astounding.
That's good.
She's always been a leader, but I'm just very proud of everything she's done.
That's good to hear. I mean,
That's
they
awesome.
say when Parkinson's just doesn't affect you, it affects your whole family. It probably even more.
Well, it's affected me minimally. We are very fortunate that her disease has been very slow progressing. It's been tremor dominant, so the rest of her life is fine. She's actually, she's got bigger arm muscles than she ever had from all the boxing and other stuff she's doing. And it's inspiring to watch how much she does and how well she does it.
That's great to hear.
And the biggest thing is that I have no doubt that Twitchy Woman is my name, but other than that, I came up with it. But
Then I'll call you Mr. Twitchy Woman.
and I also told her to call me Mr. Twitchy because of stuff I saw other bloggers doing.
I like that.
And other than that, exercise. I've been listening.
Well, we're glad.
I've been listening, and I know there's a difference between movement and exercise, but in her boxing class, there was a very heavy woman who came in the first day that I saw her with a walker, and she can barely do anything. But within 6 to 8 weeks, she was doing everything vigorously without the walker. So it's very true. You got to crawl before you can walk.
So the sooner we'll put into boxing. If I put you and your wife in a boxing ring, in a boxing ring, who would win?
Oh, she's meaner. She'd win.
Okay. I think we're done.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I'm sorry,
behalf
what?
of everyone in the park.
Oh,
I just want to say, with a big thank you from everybody in the Parkinson's world. The information that we hopefully get out there, it's just so valuable to everyone. I just want to thank you for taking your time to join us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. This is great.
And one last plug,
And I will
everybody.
see you again.
How to reduce symptoms through exercise. Buy it.
Buy it now.
It's also available in ebook. I'm getting 5% royalties from her. I told her.
Okay.
Well, you take care. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And we'll be back next week. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
How do I get out of this?
That's Tom. Tom, you're in control today. That went good.
So we're still recording. Still recording. Any last minute things you want to throw out to the world?
Just that we will be back next Thursday at 2:00 as always. Hopefully my bun won't be as messy. I'm like, oh, I'll just leave it.
I did the same with my hair.
I found her. She Twitchy Woman on Facebook, and she also has a website, twitchywoman.com. Definitely check her out. I'm checking her out as we speak. I was checking her out on my phone. Sure. And I would definitely recommend her. She's going to be one of our resources. I'm going to add her to our resources. Definitely.
I said I met her through another support group, and just really enjoyed the conversation she could bring up to the group. And then I learned about the Twitchy Women, and I just went to the website, but I never joined because I thought it was for women. Hence, Twitchy Women.
I was inspired by her starting a support group. We were going to start at the beginning of the year, but we've decided to might as well start in April.
Have you ever checked out a podcast or online called with Anna Grill? ANNA Grill.
GRILL? No.
GRILL. You should look her up. She's a YOPDer. I'm trying to get her to join us as well for the world.
Okay. Let me put that down.
So let's say goodbye, and then we can continue talking for a few minutes. Does that sound good?
Well, everybody have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time. Same bat channel. Same bat time.
You got it. Careful, Robin. It's quite a drop.
Yep.
So